Hello, everyone. Today we're taking a journey through a fascinating book that delves into the heart of American politics and economics. It's a book that challenges the status quo, and it's called The Tyranny of the Status Quo by Milton and Rose Friedman. Now, if you're like me, you might be wondering, what exactly is the tyranny of the status quo? Well, that's exactly what we're here to explore. This book is a deep dive into how the inertia of existing systems and the power of special interest groups can stifle change, even when the majority of people want it. And it uses the presidency of Ronald Reagan as a case study to illustrate these points. The book begins by examining Reagan's early promises and his initial successes. When Reagan took office, he made some bold moves. He deregulated the oil industry, which surprisingly led to a drop in oil prices, contrary to what many critics predicted. He also managed to cut regulations and push through significant tax cuts. But here's the catch. The book argues that Reagan's honeymoon period, that initial phase where a new president has the most leverage, was relatively short-lived. After about 6 to 9 months, the status quo began to reassert itself. The Friedmans argue that this is a common pattern. New administrations have a brief window to enact major changes, but if they don't act decisively, the entrenched interests and bureaucratic inertia will stall progress. This is the tyranny of the status quo in action. It's like trying to turn a supertanker. You have to start the maneuver long before you actually want to change course. The book then takes us through a detailed analysis of government spending, taxes, and deficits. The Friedmans highlight how government spending has exploded over the past century, particularly at the federal level. They break down the numbers, showing how spending on defense, while significant, is not the main driver of the budget crisis. Instead, it's the explosive growth in income support, Social Security and welfare programs that have really ballooned the federal budget. One of the most intriguing parts of the book is its discussion of deficits. The Friedmans argue that the focus on deficits is misplaced. They see taxes and spending as the real culprits. They point out that deficits are a form of hidden taxation, where the government spends money it doesn't have, and we all end up paying for it later. But they also highlight the political convenience of deficits. They allow legislators to vote for popular spending programs without having to vote for the taxes to pay for them. The book also delves into the concept of the Iron Triangle, which is a powerful alliance between special interest groups, politicians, and bureaucrats. This triangle makes it incredibly difficult to dismantle government programs, even when they're inefficient or harmful. The Friedmans use examples like the Chrysler bailout and the complexities of the tax code to illustrate how this iron triangle operates. Now let's talk about inflation and unemployment, two issues that were at the forefront during Reagan's presidency. The Friedmans argue that inflation is fundamentally a monetary phenomenon. They credit Reagan for some successes in reducing inflation, but they also criticize his policies for causing economic instability and a sharp rise in unemployment. They suggest that a steadier monetary policy could have achieved better results. The book doesn't shy away from controversial topics. It discusses the rise of crime and attributes it, in part, to the growth of government and the changing role of the individual in society. The Friedmans argue that the expansion of government programs has created a culture of dependency and has weakened the traditional family structure, which they see as a key factor in maintaining social order. Finally, the book turns to education, a topic that resonates with many of us. The Friedmans argue that the American educational system is in dire need of reform. They criticize the centralization and bureaucratization of public schools and advocate for greater parental choice through voucher systems. They believe that introducing competition into education is the key to improving its quality. So what can we take away from all of this? The Friedmans propose that the only way to overcome the tyranny of the status quo is through bold, structural changes. They advocate for constitutional amendments to balance the budget, implement a flat tax, and limit the power of the Federal Reserve. They believe that these changes are necessary to restore economic freedom and to ensure that the government serves the interests of the people, not just the special interest groups. In conclusion, The Tyranny of the Status Quo is a thought-provoking book that challenges us to rethink the way we approach governance and policy. It's a call to action for those who believe in the power of the free market and the importance of individual liberty. As we navigate the complexities of modern politics, it's a reminder that sometimes the most radical change is the one that brings us back to our core principles. Thank you for joining me on this episode. I hope you found this discussion as enlightening as I did. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. And as always, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep shining bright.
Visit BrightLearn.ai for more fascinating videos like this one, and naturalnews.com for full editorial coverage and breaking news on critical stories that keep you informed and aware of what's really going on.